So The Hobbit the Desolation of Smaug has been out for a couple days now. I made a spoiler-free review a couple days ago if you want to check that out, but right now, we're going to talk about some spoilers. Because I really want to talk about this movie because this movie was great. Now, I've actually seen this movie twice now. The first time I saw it, I was like, yeah, it's really fun, it's really good. I gave it an A+, you can check out my review there. The second time I saw it, it was still great, but I actually saw it in 48 frames a second. Yeah, I wanted to test it out, see how it was. And it is a much different experience, let me tell you that first off. Right from the opening credits of the movie, I was kind of like, okay, this is a little weird, this is a little different, I'm not sure how I like this. Like when you see the Warner Bros. Logo and then it frames over and it goes to the New Line Cinema logo, even just that didn't really look right to my brain. I think that 48 frames a second is really cool, and it takes a while to get used to. It took me about a half hour to adjust. And after that, it does still look kind of weird, but you don't really notice it that much. I mean, like in all of the Smaug scenes and all of that, I was really into it, and then I looked back and I was like, oh wait, yeah, this is still in 48 frames a second. And then my brain clicked on and I was like, yeah, this still looks really weird. But after that first half hour or so, you're really able to get past it. Still doesn't change the fact that it doesn't look as good as it does in 24 frames a second. So that was my little spiel on 48 frames a second. Now let's talk about the actual movie and the spoilers in the movie. Now in my initial review of this movie, I said that there was a scene about like 10 seconds of the movie that kind of took me out of it. This is going to seem like a really minor nitpick, and it is a really minor nitpick. For some reason, Peter Jackson's cameo in this movie kind of took me out of it. You know, when it's zooming in on Bree and you see him just kind of walk past the screen. I know he does have cameos in all the other movies. Actually, I'm not sure about the first Hobbit movie. But I know, like, in all the Lord of the Rings movies, he has cameos in there. And those are all really cool and really well done. But for this one, I kind of just felt like he got lost on the set or something. Like, he doesn't really have any sort of makeup. You can clearly tell that that is Peter Jackson. Like, in the other movies, like in Two Towers, it was in the Helm's Deep scene. And so it's all raining and stuff. You don't really realize that in your first viewing. And then you go back and you're like, oh wait, that was Peter Jackson. But he's just kind of walking through, and you know, he actually does kind of look like he's lost, you know, he's doing that kind of thing. But it's really minor nitpicks. Because it's not like I walked out of this movie going, yeah, the movie was great, but that Peter Jackson cameo in the beginning, you know what, it's not an A+ movie anymore just because of that little scene right there. What kind of person would do that? I mean, honestly, it's such a small part of the movie. But anyways, moving on, the scene starts off with a flashback like all the other movies do, and you get a scene with the first meeting of Thorin and Gandalf. And there are these two guys sitting on either side of Thorin. You don't really know who they are, and they never actually tell you in the movie. I'm not really sure why they're in the movie. I mean, Gandalf does say, yeah, you're wanted, people have a price out there for your head. But still, those characters never really came back. I was kind of surprised about that. Anyways, the story progresses and we see more of Bilbo, and I really like where they took Bilbo's character in this movie. In an unexpected journey, he was kind of fish out of water, but I feel like in this movie, he really felt like one of the guys in the company. He gelled a lot better with all of them, especially with Thorin, and I really like the whole scene with the Mirkwood spiders and seeing him take them out and how Sting got its name. Right when I realized that that was the spider scene, I was like, wait a minute. They haven't named his sword yet. Spiders have stingers. Holy crap. Then I whispered over to my friend and I was like, dude, they're gonna name the sword right now. It's Sting, the stingers, you know, the thing. It's gonna be so cool. And yeah, it was pretty cool. But I like how this movie delved more into the fact that the ring can really just corrupt the best of people. I mean, you see Gollum, he had it for 500 years. You see Frodo near the end of Return of the King, you know, he was having issues with trust and all of that. And in this spider scene, Bilbo loses the ring and this little baby spider comes crawling up to it. It's not even trying to touch the ring, but Bilbo just goes ballistic. He starts hacking away at the baby spider. It's completely defenseless. I was watching that scene and I was kind of in shock. I was kind of like, oh. Yeah, Bilbo was definitely not the same Hobbit he was when he left the Shire. And then there was another really cool Lord of the Rings throwback when Legolas and all the elves and them, they capture the dwarves in the forest. And then Legolas takes those pictures from Glóin and he's like, who is this? And Glóin goes, that's my wee lad, Gimli. When that happened, I was like, oh man, because, you know, Legolas and Gimli are going to become such good friends later in life. And that was such a cool scene because I actually forgot that Gimli's dad was part of the company. Like, I knew his name was Glóin, and I knew that there was a Glóin in the company, but for some reason that just never really clicked with me. So moving on, the barrel scene was really cool. I liked all the action going on there. A couple of times some of the camera work was a little weird when it like went underwater. You could clearly tell it was a camera. But I never really felt like I was sucked out of the action because I enjoyed the entire thing. You know, orcs are up there getting decapitated. Legolas is there standing on two dwarves' heads while he's shooting orcs and everything. I feel like Legolas was even more awesome in this movie than he was in the Lord of the Rings movies. Just the way he was fighting, and I feel like Orlando Bloom bulked up a little bit more. And then at the end of the movie when he takes on Bolg, that one orc, I'm just really glad they added Legolas to this movie. I had my doubts, but he turned out really awesome. And then they get to Lake Town and they meet Bard, and I thought Bard was a really cool character, especially because his history ties into the fall of Dale. And he's kind of a broken character. You can tell he wants to redeem himself, same as Thorin. And he's also this hero for the common folk, and he's trying to tell them that the dragon is just going to come and wipe out their town if they let the dwarves go and take back the Lonely Mountain. This character just had so many layers to him, and I really hope they explore that more in There and Back Again. Another part of this movie that I like is that they split up the company a little bit. Because, you know, there are a lot of sequels sequels out there that kind of just come up with these convoluted reasons to get the whole party back together. Some sequels are smart, you know, you have Empire Strikes Back, you have the Two Towers, they're like, no, these people are split up and they're gonna stay like this for the movie. There is no reason that they should be together, and there are actually logical reasons why they have to be apart for this little amount of time. And that was really cool because Killy gets injured, and then Philly and Bombor, and then there was one other dwarf, I don't remember his name. So they're over there healing him back in Lake Town, and then you have the company still going after Erebor. And then way over here at Dol Guldur, you have Radagast the Brown and Gandalf, and they're doing their thing with the Necromancer. Which before I saw this movie, one of my friends was like, oh yeah, Gandalf just spends the entire movie climbing a mountain. But I'm telling you guys, I probably could have watched a good half hour more of Gandalf just climbing this mountain. The whole part of that thing was just so interesting and so cool, and then at the end when he comes face to face with Sauron, I knew the Necromancer was Sauron, and they kind of hinted at that in An Unexpected Journey. But then once he has Gandalf up against that wall and he just goes, Sauron. And then it's zooming through the eye and you see like the physical manifestation of Sauron there for a second. And then Sauron's theme starts playing, you know the theme. Ba, 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 da, da. That whole scene when they're just flashing through the eye the whole time, I was just there like, yes. Yes, 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 yes! I'm telling you guys, it was awesome. And now back at the Lonely Mountain, Bilbo and them, they all found the door, that secret entrance on Durin's Day. And I said in my review initially that Balin is like my favorite dwarf now. There's a scene when he's walking in with Bilbo, he's telling him about the Arkenstone, and then he goes, you know what? There is no shame if you want to just leave because you might die. No one is going to think that you are less of a person for walking out of here. And then Bilbo tells him, no, I want to do this. I promised that I would do this and it's my obligation to go. And then Balin just stands there and he goes, it never ceases to amaze me. The courage of hobbits. I love that dude, especially because later he defends Bilbo when Thorin is saying, you know, oh, I'm not gonna risk this entire quest for the sake of one burglar. He just stands there and he goes, Bilbo. His name is Bilbo. He's the oldest and wisest dwarf in the company. He's definitely the voice of reason. You know, he's been with Thorin for so long, and you can tell that even Thorin is changing, which you see later in this movie, which was really cool. Is that after they awaken Smaug, and then Bilbo's trying to run out, and he goes, the Arkenstone, did you get the Arkenstone? Bilbo tries to walk out, and then he holds his sword up. He doesn't let Bilbo leave. That was just a really dark scene. I mean, I haven't finished the Hobbit books. I don't know if Thorin turns bad at the end, but you can tell that this Arkenstone is just, he's obsessing over it and it's just starting to eat away at him. The Arkenstone is becoming to Thorin what the ring has become to Bilbo and what it used to be to Gollum. And I really like that parallel there and the way that they played it out in the movie. And then you have Bilbo talking with Smaug, and what's really cool about that is Smaug doesn't blow him away initially. I mean, Smaug could have just been walking around and Bilbo accidentally lets go of the ring and Smaug is like, oh, found you. But no, they have words, they converse, and you see that Smaug is really intelligent. And I really like that even though he is played by Cumberbatch, who is a really big actor now, you don't view the voice as Cumberbatch's, you view it as, I mean for a second you do, but eventually, especially once you see him prowling around, you're like, no, that is Smaug the dragon. The CGI on Smaug was really good too. At no point did I ever think that he was CGI. Eventually, a big fight happens in Erebor. They try to drown Smaug with a melted statue of Thrawn. And then he ends up getting away. Bard is in prison. Gandalf is stuck in Dol Guldur. And Smaug is flying for Lake Town. Cut, Ed Sheeran. Now, I know some people that have had issues with this ending, and I can kind of understand that. I mean, the way that it happened, it did kind of feel like they wanted to force a sequel, like in the end of Sherlock Holmes 2. However, there was such a giant dragon there, and I guess if they did kill him off right there, that would have been enough for an ending for him. But I like that he left him alive because Bard, they still haven't closed Bard's storyline yet. And I want to see where they go with him and how he's going to deal with Smaug and how he'll probably end up redeeming himself from his past ancestors' errors or lack thereof, or lack of arrows. That's more like it, lack of arrows. But yeah, right when this movie ended, I was like, dude, we gotta watch the third one, like right now. 2014 is going to be a long year. In the end, The Hobbit the Desolation of Smaug was everything I wanted it to be. It was darker than An Unexpected Journey. It was a little bit more complex than that one too. The higher frame rate, I'm still not completely used to. I think that in a couple years, if they keep going with that, then yeah, I will get adjusted to it, and then we'll be fine with it. But for now, especially with your first viewing of Desolation of Smaug or any of the other Hobbit movies, watch it in 24 frames a second. You'll enjoy it a lot more. And I'm just already counting down the days till There and Back Again comes out. So what did you guys think of the ending of The Desolation of Smaug? This is a spoiler review. Feel free to discuss it down below. But thanks for watching this video. If you guys like it, you can click here to see more.